In this video, I'm answering your questions about the similarities and differences between the Audient iD14 Mark II and the Universal Audio Apollo audio interfaces. Simply put, the Audient iD14 is the best interface I've tried for under $300. It fends off stiff competition in the low-cost audio interface arena. Conversely, the Universal Audio Apollo Twin is a professional standard audio interface but comes with a significantly higher price tag. Let's find out what the difference between these two devices are and why the Apollos are so much more expensive. Hi, I'm Ed from edthorn.com, here to try and help you guys make the most out of your home studios. And if you're wondering what the differences between these two interfaces are, then you are in the right place. Hopefully this video will help answer some questions and help you decide which device is right for you. Now, I'm not going to list all the similarities between the two devices, that would be boring, and Google is your best friend to find out this kind of information. If you're wondering why I'm mentioning random people in the video, that's because they submitted information requests on my community posts, which I posted asking you guys what you would like to know about these two devices, and there were some really great suggestions, so thank you for taking the time to submit those. Now, I must stress that this is not a direct comparison. Clearly, one of these devices costs 3 to 4 times the amount of the other one. The point of this video is to explore how they're different and what you get for the extra cash with the Apollo. Throughout this video, if you consider purchasing one of these devices, I've listed links to further information in the description below for your convenience. Purchasing through these links is a great way to support the channel if you found value in this comparison. The Audient has headphone and monitor mute functions, as well as hosting an assignable ID button that enables you to control an array of features, including mono selection, dim, talkback, and alt for switching between monitor sends. The ID button can also be assigned to utilize the large volume wheel on the device as a scroll wheel in your DAW. The Apollo hosts all of the above features with the exception of the scroll wheel. Plus, it also hosts some additional features including a high-pass filter, phase switch, and a pad button. The primary difference is that the Apollo hosts all of these features on the device with a physical button for each one, without having to choose which one to assign to the ID button and sacrificing the rest. The Audient is bus powered, where the Apollo Twin requires a supplied power cable. Side note, the Apollo Solo Thunderbolt version is bus powered. Check out my full review here. And the Audient is supplied with a USB-C cable. None of the Apollo devices are supplied with a Thunderbolt cable, so factor this in as an additional expense when considering your purchase. Both devices have 2 combination mic and line inputs and a single high-Z high-impedance input on the front, which automatically takes precedent over the rear inputs when an instrument cable is connected. The Apollo has an input gain range of 65 decibels on all of its inputs. The Audient has 58 decibels on all of its inputs, with the addition of a 10 decibel digital gain boost available in the ID mixer. The relevant dynamic ranges are also listed on screen now. The first request is from Leon Riccarlo, and he wants to know how the DI inputs sound. So here they are on electric guitar and bass guitar with a peak input level of -12 in Logic. Apollo audio interfaces are home to Universal Audio's revolutionary preamp modeling technology called Unison. By analyzing circuits and modeling components, Universal Audio have created digital replications of studio preamps, channel strips, and guitar amplifiers at a much more affordable price than the original hardware units. By integrating hardware and software, Unison physically reconfigures your Apollo's preamp impedance and gain staging to authentically replicate the original sounds and nonlinearities of the original devices. Music and Leadership requested that I compare which of these preamps is noisier at full volume. And Home Studio Rescue wants to know if both of these devices are sufficient to power a microphone like the SM7B, which is notoriously gain hungry. The noise test I just demonstrated was using the SM7B, but for further reference, here's my voice with the Apollo set to maximum gain with no Unison preamp through my Shure SM7B. And here's my voice through the Apollo with the Neve 1073 Unison preamp set to a maximum gain of 80 decibels. Here's my voice through the Audient iD14 at a maximum of 58 decibels input gain. To hear more of the Unison preamps in action, click on the link in the description for this video where my friend Rasmus from Diamond Head demonstrates the Neve 1084, the Manley Vox Box, the Avalon VT737 tube channel strip, and my favourite, the SSL E channel strip on vocals. Unison preamp modelling plugins are powered by the Apollo's onboard DSP. So all the required processing is done natively on your Apollo, so not to use your computer's CPU power. And Pavel Plinter wanted to hear these preamps in action on my vocals, completely dry, but nobody wants to hear that, and I can't play acoustic guitar for shit. The iD14 offers the best digital monitoring routing options compared to the competition in its price range. It still focuses on the concept of direct monitoring, but offers more flexibility with virtual signal routing capabilities from your door. I've explored this in greater detail in my full review of the Audient iD14 Mark II on screen now, and I've linked that in the description below. Essentially, it allows you to balance and pan multiple sends from your door, whilst enabling you to balance your input channels for better stereo separation when recording. The Apollo does the same thing on steroids and takes the concept of monitoring much further, which we'll discuss in more detail later on in the DSP section of the video. Both devices are fitted with two analog outputs in addition to the monitor outputs, allowing you to connect an extra set of speakers for reference monitoring, or alternatively you can run a chain of analog outboard gear such as compressors and EQs and route that back into the devices through the line inputs. Now, regarding external preamps, a common question is, can you bypass the preamps on both of these devices? And the answer is no, you can't. You also can't bypass the preamps on the Apollo Twin X's, but you can bypass the preamps on the Apollo X rack-mounted devices such as the X6. David the Arbid requested to know how transparent the monitor outputs are on both of these devices, and this is quite simple. These are the two best sounding output devices in all of the audio interfaces I have tried on this channel. They are very clear, punchy, accurate, and full sounding. Both devices host a single headphone amplifier output. Although the iD14 has two sockets, one for a mini jack and another for a 1/4-inch jack, these are not independently controllable. Some quality is lost when both of these are in use, but this is barely noticeable with low impedance headphones. Sound-wise, these are both very good headphone amplifiers and handle high impedance headphones with ease. If I had to choose which one sounds better, the Apollo has a touch more fullness in the low end, but you're hard pushed to tell the difference. Marcus L. Marlowe requested that I test the headphone output on the iD14 with both a USB-C and a USB-A cable, because there is a rumour that this affects the headphone amplifier. Now, this isn't quite the right comparison because type A or C only refers to the physical connection and not to the actual data transfer or power capabilities, which may affect the headphone amplifier. What matters in terms of power is the USB generation. USB 3 can transfer a significantly higher wattage than USB 2. And the way to tell the difference is that USB 3 cables are noticeably thicker than USB 2 cables. With my low impedance Sennheiser HD300 Pro headphones, the difference was discernible between the two cables. However, with my Sennheiser HD600s, which are 300 ohms and relatively high impedance, the difference was very obvious. And I've tested it for you using my SONARWORKS reference microphone so you can hear for yourselves. As you can hear, the audio distorts heavily with the USB 2 cable when cranked to maximum volume, and it's absolutely fine with the USB 3 cable. This was an interesting test and reveals an even more interesting piece of information. For the best headphone monitoring quality, choose an audio interface either with an external power supply or with USB 3 connectivity. And naturally, following this, I had to do the same test with the monitor outputs as well for my speakers, but the difference was discernible, which is about right because there's no power amplifier involved. If you'd like your questions featured in these videos, make sure to hit the subscribe button and keep an eye on the community posts where I'm asking you guys, the awesome YouTube community, questions on a weekly basis. Submit your questions in the comments on the community post and I'll do my best to incorporate as many as I can. And whilst we're here, leave your thoughts on this video in the comments below today. Richard wanted to know how the mixing applications compare, and this is a good question. The ID14 is supplied with the ID Mixer app, which is what you see on screen now. The routing out of your door is flexible, and mixers for your headphone and alt sends can be mixed independently to your monitor outputs. Console is Universal Audio's monitor and I/O routing control sensor and offers unparalleled flexibility. We can set up individual mixers for up to 4 sends, including 2 effects processing auxiliary returns that we can assign in combination to these sends. The onboard Apollo DSP enables you to monitor through Universal Audio plugins whilst recording with sub 2 milliseconds of latency. Now this is inaudible, so it's effectively in real time. You can also print these monitor insert effects to your audio whilst recording, should you wish to commit to the compression and EQ on the way in. This is a really versatile and powerful system. To learn more about the expansive flexibility of Apollo monitoring and signal routing, click on the link for this video in the description below. To learn more about monitoring with UAD plugins and committing this processing to your audio, click on the link for this video also in the description below. The onboard DSP also enables you to mix using Universal Audio plugins in your DAW. Now, all the processing for this happens on your Apollo device, so not using any of your computer's CPU power, freeing up your CPU power for other processing. Both devices have ADAT inputs, allowing you to connect an additional 8 preamps. This is really useful if you decide you'd like to track drums or more instrumentalists at any point. The Audient can be expanded with 1 additional ADAT device, giving you a total of 10 inputs. The Apollo interface can be combined with Universal Audio rack units and satellite DSP expansion units to create a very flexible unit of DSP in-out routing and monitoring options. Up to 6 Apollo interfaces and satellite DSP units can be combined to really customize a highly powerful and flexible recording system to your needs. This is what I've done in my studio with my Apollo Twin, my Apollo X6, and my DSP satellite core. Both Apollos have ADAT inputs, so I have 2 additional ASP880 preamps, ironically from Audient. Expanding your Apollo setup enables you to increase the number of headphone sends you can offer to a total of 4. The Audient system is always limited to a single output. Vasily Chernov requested that I compare the converters on both of these devices. Now, with extensive talks with someone who's worked at both companies, we actually surmised it's pretty much impossible to accurately compare and directly compare the converters due to the way both devices are built and the signal paths are routed. And I don't have any scientific equipment to go into the devices and isolate the necessary components to do those comparisons. If you are interested in some very scientific audio interface evaluations, including floor noise, distortion levels, and inputs and output metering and all this stuff, go and check out Julian Krause's channel. He's got a fantastic channel. He goes into some incredible depth, and it's based on science rather than just opinions like my videos, and we all know what they say about opinions. To test the signal path of these devices, I've taken some pre-recorded audio out of outputs 3 and 4 on both devices, back out into inputs 1 and 2, and then I've recorded that. I've then looped this recording out of outputs 3 and 4, back into inputs 1 and 2, and done that. This process captures a snapshot of the digital to audio conversion, the preamp influence, and then the audio to digital conversion. And I did this 100 times to really exaggerate the degradation of each signal path. Now, obviously, this is not a real-world test. That's not the point. The point is to simply highlight the differences between the 2 signal paths because one is definitely cleaner than the other. Now, the ID14 uses plus 12 dBu DA conversion to equal 0 dB FS full scale, compared to the Apollo, which uses plus 20 dBu digital to audio conversion to equal 0 dB full scale. This means the Apollo has an extra 8 decibels of headroom in the conversion process before any harmonic distortion or digital clipping is introduced. I've used the mastered file and set the output to -1 dBFS, so there's no transients poking out of the dynamic range which could affect the conversion. So as you can hear, the Apollo preamp signal path is very clean compared to the Audient iD14, which has a discrete Class A transistor amplifier. The latter is more likely to colour the sound and is more likely to be the cause of the signal degradation, harmonic distortion and slight phase shifting you can hear. The Apollo preamps are very clean, but you can hear there's a bit of a low-mid build-up there, I think. These are two brilliant, very good quality, best in price range audio interfaces. Hopefully now you've got a better idea of where the value is in the Apollo and what you get for the extra money. Remember to click the links in the description for all the other videos I've mentioned and also to find out more information about these products. Make sure to subscribe, hit the like button and do it right away while you remember. I really appreciate it. In the meantime, thank you for watching, be kind to one another, and I'll see you all on the next one. Simply put, the Audient iD14 is the best audio interface I've tried for under $300. It fends off stiff competition from other interfaces in the low-cost interface. How many times can I say interface?